At 8:17 on a Tuesday morning, a phone buzzes with a deposit notification. $3,842. 11 minutes later, another notification appears. Rent, insurance, credit card. The balance rises, then collapses, like it was never there. The strange part isn't the money. It's that two people can earn the exact same paycheck and live in completely different realities. One opens their banking app 10 times a day. The other barely thinks about it. One sees every expense as a potential emergency. The other treats emergencies like inconvenient paperwork. From the outside, they look identical. Same coffee shop, same office building, same traffic jam every morning. But beneath the surface, they're living under different laws. You can see it in small moments. The person at the electronics store asking if payments can be split into 4 installments. The manager refreshing a spreadsheet before approving a vacation. The couple delaying a dentist appointment because the estimate arrived before payday. Nothing dramatic. No yachts, no private jets, just thousands of tiny negotiations with reality. And most people assume the solution is a bigger income. Then something odd happens. A promotion arrives. The salary jumps by $20,000. For 3 months, everything feels different. Then, the new furniture arrives. The subscriptions multiply. The car payment gets larger. The breathing room disappears. Not because the money vanished, because human beings are experts at converting extra income into normal life. The proof is hiding in plain sight. Look at a parking lot outside a luxury apartment complex. Nearly every vehicle represents a monthly payment. Look at a neighborhood filled with large houses. Many of those front doors are attached to decades of obligations. Appearance keeps getting bigger. Freedom often doesn't. That's the first misunderstanding people make about wealth. They think wealth is visible. Most of the time, the visible part is just spending. The invisible part is what changes everything. And almost nobody notices it until they encounter someone playing an entirely different game. You notice it when a coworker gets laid off. The announcement hits the company chat at 9:04. By noon, dozens of employees are updating resumes. By evening, everyone is quietly calculating how many months they could survive without a paycheck. Not years, months, sometimes weeks. And that's when the hidden divide reveals itself. Not between rich and poor, between people who own time and people who rent it. Because money behaves differently once it starts producing more money than your labor does. A person with $10,000 saved experiences growth in dollars. A person with $500,000 experiences growth in options. That's the part nobody sees. The account balance matters less than what it removes. The panic before an unexpected invoice. The fear attached to speaking honestly in a meeting. The pressure to accept every opportunity, even terrible ones. Each disappears one layer at a time. The transformation isn't dramatic. It's administrative. A broken water heater becomes a transfer. A medical bill becomes a transaction. A layoff becomes a planning exercise. The problem isn't that these people never face stress. The problem is that their stress arrives slower. And slower problems are easier to solve. But something else happens here. Something much stranger. The system starts offering discounts to the people who need them least. Walk into a furniture store without cash. You might finance a couch at 18%. Walk in with assets. A bank may lend against them for a fraction of that cost. The same economy, the same city, the same week, different rules. A $4,000 expense costs one person $4,000. It costs another person $4,000 minus rewards points, tax advantages, investment growth, and preferred borrowing terms. Identical purchase, different outcome. And once you notice this pattern, it becomes impossible to ignore. Airports, insurance, mortgages, investment platforms. Everywhere you look, there are fast lanes hidden inside ordinary systems. The irony is painful. Many people spend decades chasing higher income while ignoring the thing that actually changes their position in the game. Ownership, not ownership of luxury items. Ownership of assets. Assets don't care whether you're sleeping, They don't care whether you're on vacation. They don't care whether you're sitting in a meeting pretending to be interested. At 2:13 inches the morning, while an entire city is asleep, assets continue moving. A rental property collects rent. A business processes transactions. An index fund quietly absorbs another day of economic activity. No applause. No celebration. Just movement. Then comes the uncomfortable realization. Many purchases that feel like progress are actually withdrawals from future freedom. Not because they're evil, because every monthly payment competes against future ownership. A $300 payment, then another, then another. Each seems harmless alone. Together, they become permanent background noise, the kind that follows people for years. The truly dangerous expenses aren't the large ones. They're the recurring ones. The charges so familiar they become invisible. The subscription renewed for the 7th year. The upgraded vehicle that feels normal after 6 weeks. The premium version of convenience purchased hundreds of times. Tiny decisions. Massive consequences. And while most people are looking at income, the real battle is quietly happening somewhere else. Inside habits so ordinary they barely register. The habit usually begins with something small. A notification appears. One-click purchase. $27. Not enough to trigger concern. 3 days later, another one. Then another. Nothing feels expensive. Yet somehow the account balance keeps behaving like a bucket with a hole in the bottom. And that's the trap. Most financial damage never arrives as a catastrophe. It arrives disguised as convenience. People imagine their future will be shaped by major decisions. The house, the business, the investment. But open 12 months of bank statements and a different story emerges. Hundreds of ordinary choices. Hundreds of moments nobody remembers making. The delivery fee paid because cooking felt exhausting. The upgrade selected because it was only $9 more. The impulse purchase justified by a stressful day. One decision changes almost nothing. 1,000 decisions rewrite an entire decade. That's why some people reach age 50 and wonder where the money went. Not because they were irresponsible, because every individual transaction looked harmless. Meanwhile, another person is experiencing something that appears almost unfair. Not because they're smarter, not because they're working harder, because years earlier they built systems instead of reactions. Their paycheck arrives. Part of it disappears automatically. Investments, savings, assets. No daily debate. No motivation required. No emotional struggle. The decision was made once and repeated hundreds of times. That's the hidden advantage most people mistake for discipline. It's rarely discipline. It's design. And design compounds. Just like interest. A person saves $15 a day. Almost invisible. Less than many people spend without noticing. 1 year passes. Nothing remarkable. 5 years pass. Still not impressive. Then 10 years pass. Then 15. And suddenly the gap between two lives becomes impossible to ignore. Not because of one heroic move. Because one person repeatedly purchased future options while the other repeatedly purchased present comfort. Neither decision felt important at the time. That's what makes it dangerous. The future arrives quietly. Then, all at once. You see it during conversations. One person discusses work like survival. Another discusses work like a choice. One tolerates situations they hate because they must. The other can walk away because they prepared years earlier. Same age. Same city. Completely different relationship with reality. And here's the realization most people don't discover until very late. The ultimate benefit of money isn't luxury. Luxury adapts. Humans get used to almost everything. The bigger house becomes normal. The expensive watch becomes invisible. The upgraded lifestyle becomes the baseline. But control never loses its value. Control over time. Control over attention. Control over who gets access to your energy. That's what people are actually chasing when they chase money. They just don't realize it. Which creates one final problem. Because once someone gains more control, they immediately meet people with even more. The owner compares himself to the investor. The investor compares herself to the founder. The founder compares himself to the billionaire. The comparison never ends. The finish line keeps moving. The numbers get larger. The feeling stays strangely familiar. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, millions of people wake up, check their banking app, check their email, check their calendar, and continue running toward a target they never consciously selected. Not because they chose it, because everyone around them seemed to be running in the same direction. And the uncomfortable question arrives only after years have passed. If the target keeps moving every time you get closer, how would you know if you've already passed the point that should have been enough?